Welcome back to the Breakneck Podcast. This is going to be an interesting episode because we're going to have our first ever repeat guest. In fact, he was also our first ever guest. So welcome, Jeff Berezny.
Good to be here. Good to be back on almost a year later, and things have certainly moved fast. So good to be back, and good to see you guys are still releasing at a breakneck speed here. So
There we are. Jeff, so last year, I suppose we talked about AI and creativity in the marketing space. It's been almost exactly a year. I'm a bit worried we're not going to have anything to talk about because I don't think anything has really changed, has it?
yeah, well, exactly. And I think, I mean, there's so many directions I could take us out of the gates. My bend is always going to be on the creative and design angle, primarily. While I'm looking at kind of everything within the AI space, I'm a solopreneur running an AI/human design agency, and that's where I spend most of my time. And I think what's sort of most shocking or most interesting for me in the way that I started the year, and how things changed, was I think a year ago, I think in January, I published kind of my software stack. I'm like, here's all the apps that I'm using for design and for marketing. And this year, I said in January, I'm just going to delete my entire stack, or almost my entire stack. Probably the only ones that remained was actually Gmail, Google, and maybe Figma, but a little bit. But I said, what happens if I just delete all of my SaaS business subscriptions and start fresh? Because I think that that's where we're at.
So let's actually, just for those who, the very few people probably missed the prior episode, but just in case, maybe introduce BZ Digital and kind of the thesis behind it. And I don't know if that thesis has changed, but how it looked a year ago.
Yeah, so the BZ Design is, like I said, a human-centered solopreneur design shop run by myself. And my whole positioning is how much can I do with one person and as many AI agents or technology as I can get going until I sort of break. And so that's always been the approach, but also giving a human touch, a human connection to clients, while leveraging the acceleration of technology. And I think last year, and even when I was beginning, I very much said I'm about AI and no code, or low code and no code. I think low code and no code is those two terms will probably completely be eliminated from the industry. I think in the next year, I'm sure we haven't even heard them recently, but I would say even a year ago, I think that was a big part of what I was doing. I was very focused in actually on, like, I'm a Webflow certified developer, framer, Figma. I focus very much in those verticals, particularly in Webflow. And that was very much still part of the stack. And AI was kind of, especially in the creative space, like if we rewind a year ago, it was really much more ChatGPT helping with copy, and some generative AI models helping with imagery. So in Midjourney, but it was really like it's still kind of doing the same job that it was doing before, but really AI was accelerating the copywriting and accelerating the ability to put in interesting imagery. But then I would still be using no code or low code tools to build.
Was there sort of a headline metric that we could compare this year to last year in the sense of how involved AI was, or how much code you were writing, or is there some sort of meaningful metric that we can kind of do a comparison on last year to this year?
I would say last year, I mean, I was technically writing no code, and now it's almost not 100%, but I would say maybe 70% of what I do is code first, which is, I think, an interesting place for us to kind of
Yeah,
travel
tell
down
us
and
more.
how that works.
Tell me more. So Webflow, just if you haven't used it, Webflow is a website creator, but it's a pretty sophisticated one. You can
Very
get into the
specific.
code if you want. So you would want to be a technologist, I think, to use it. It would take a little while to get up to speed. It would be very alien if you'd never seen or read any HTML, for example. So that's kind of where you were, but it sounds like you've gone even closer to the code in the intervening
Yeah,
year.
and I would say that's one of the key things is get as close to the code, as close to the metal, so to speak, as you can. Or I've tried to do that as we move forward into 2026. And I would actually say that even for Webflow, for Framer, for Figma, for Photoshop, for all of these design tools, they're really the kind of middle of the stack. And I think it's going to be completely hollowed out. I don't think there's going to be any need, myself included, to continue to learn how to design with the like paintbrush called Webflow, or how to design with the paintbrush called Figma. Like the pixel pushing movements of like, how do I, like, what button do I need to use? And I mean, if you're familiar with Photoshop, like it's so confusing, right? You have to learn how to use Photoshop so that you can design. So I think that if I'm Webflow right now, it's scary, but you got to completely ditch the whole interface, I think, and just
Well,
start
I think
AI
on the
first.
one hand, Webflow is kind of benefiting from it making it easier for a while, but it might be this kind of false frontier. And you see that with Adobe too. It's like, oh wow, all these AI tools, people are doing way more in Photoshop, and then it's going to be this cliff where and then suddenly you don't need to even interact with Photoshop at all, because instead of I got a pretty good design, I just need to add a couple elements. You just say to Nano Banana, hey, add these elements, and you're done. And it's
Yeah.
just like more use, and then no use.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting, you can split, or at least I've split my, let's call it design, like visual design, into two buckets now. One bucket is code first, and one bucket is like generative AI. So if you think one side is like use Claude Code to generate a website or generate anything of design, but it's all done with code. So it's like React, and it's just like creating animations, but it's all code based. And that's sort of the left side of it. And then the other side of it would be generative AI using Nano Banana, which is imagery. And I would say the code based side of it, I think, is where I'm finding a lot of success right away, because you can create, it can be exact, like pixel perfect. And you can edit it to the point of exact pixel perfect using prompts. And I can create an entire websites, imagery, icons, animations, all like with fine tuning, chat based sort of change the code. And then if you need imagery or photos or something sort of creative, then you kind of go with a Nano Banana and say, okay, now let's start to wrestle with this generative AI to create an imagery that can come in. What I don't do, and what I don't think is working that well, is like just create me a website in Nano Banana. Like that's not a thing. Like it's like you can say create me an interesting style based on Apple for a header image, and now I take that header image and go back to say Claude Code and say let's create this using code, but use this as an inspiration for
Yeah.
to kind of like lock it in. So
So I've been playing a lot with, and Ian has heard all my different techniques for this, but on deck generation, on slide deck
but yeah,
generation.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah. How's
think
that going?
it's I've roughly the same problem, and I don't think there's actually that much difference in some sense. But it's a layout, it's information presentation, different purpose, different set of technologies. But like what you said is that there's a code first way, and then there's a generative way. And I think what I've been working on is, if you do code first, it's a bit simplistic, and then you have to do a lot of prompting to get it there. If you do it the generative first way, you'll get something actually pretty incredible looking on first, but then it's there's things about it you don't
There'll be
like,
six
and there's
fingers
no
somewhere, or something's just off.
yeah, and there's no quick way to do it. And so one of the things I've been doing is, well, and we've had a group and just working on this, is one thing is technique I've seen is tons of generative. So when you talk about multi-agent, don't prompt and get one view, prompt and get 600 views, and then scroll through them very quickly on that generative side. And it's more expensive, but when you think about it, it's like, no, I just spent 35 cents on AI. That seems like a lot. Like people are like, oh man, I've used a whole water bottle on AI. I've spent a whole it's like you literally have a swimming pool in your backyard and you're concerned
Yeah,
about the water
yeah.
bottle you just used. And it's like, okay, your salary is X and you spent $12 today on AI. And you're like, oh my God, I'm breaking the bank. And it's like, you should be spending your salary on AI. When you think about what you're doing, it's like, you're not replacing a helper with AI.
Mhm.
You're replacing a design firm with AI. So how much should you be spending? And so like, what are your approaches for, and how have you been scaling up?
Yeah, I mean, Claude Code is, I mean, I've been Claude pilled for sure. That happened in sort of November. I mean, I've, to be honest, like, I feel like this, all of 2025, I was a Claude first person. That's a different sort of conversation. Why Claude versus OpenAI versus Gemini, but really Claude pilled into Claude Code. And I'm not a developer in November of last year when I just took the time to go from Claude chat interface to Claude code interface, and then to the Claude command with the CLI interface,
Mhm.
and watch some tutorials, kind of figured it out. And it's way easier, one, than you would think, but you still need to have a technical kind of bend to kind of not get completely intimidated by the command line. But that said, it's pretty incredible when you start to sit in that command line, and it actually starts to walk you through things and develop really incredible, amazing work. And I think what was really the trigger for starting to spend was when Claude introduced skills, Claude Code had skills, and they introduced specifically the front end design skill, which is like night and day. You go from the replit style, dumb looking, rounded corners, color. Like there's kind of like this AI style that's emerged. It's interesting, right? There's the very generic SaaS, rounded corners and colorful curved buttons and things, to not that, to really whatever style you want. And then I would sit for, I had 4 terminals open, working on, multiple projects at the same time. And then I was hitting limits. And I was like, I need the max plan for sure. um, so, and at first I was like, $100 a month. That's a lot of money. That's exceptional. Like, why would I be spending $100 a month on its SaaS product? But then, yeah, you go look at the output. The output is insane. Like, it's out of control. So I'm just scared it's actually going to get more expensive, and and they are going to keep wrapping it up, because the value creation is unbelievable.
Certainly, in terms of like product market fit, I think ChatGPT got like the $20 a month, subscription user. They have 800 million kind of consumer style users, and then a fraction of them are paying $20 a month. But I think they hit $10 billion a year last year or something like that. They were ahead of plan. They were doing great. Claude Code, I can imagine spending $10,000 a month on it.
Yeah.
Right? Like what it does, I've hired, how many times have you hired a person for $10,000 a month and not gotten
and they're barely useful, right? Sometimes you have to train them up, and you have to train Claude Code up. And
it's made a lot of effort not to hire barely useful people, but like I can think of people that I'm like, this thing is doing more, right? And it's like, if you were paying, for $200 a month, I got the $200 a month because I'm like, this is so clearly something I need to feel the impulse that like, I spent the big package. This is a thing I start my day every day. And I'm really working backwards now, instead of, hey, when do I need to use AI? To like, I'm going to use AI, and then like, how far is it going to get me? Versus,
and when do I have to? Can I not use AI? I think that's interesting.
When is the AI going to come get me and ask for help? Is the question I actually want to be asking now. Not when do I need to ask the AI for help?
Yes,
because you're just leaving this. You're like, it's my job to keep this thing running full time. Then you're like, wait, I could have 2 terminals. Oh, I could have 4 terminals. I could run a swarm of 50 agents. Then you start to really see yourself like, I just need to not run out of problems. But if you can just get customers on board with that, and that's like, there you go, there you're done.
That's the trip. I'm interested. You said something, because I've been exploring the same thing, is start every day with AI, or start every day in the terminal, or start every day in Claude. Like, what does that look like for you? Because that's something that I've been like actively trying to be like. My morning meeting with the robots, for example, is something I've been kind of like my morning stand up with the robots.
Well, you kind of have to, like, the problem I get into is I'm not good at doing 8-hour days with AI. I'm good at doing 18-hour days with AI, and then like the next morning be like, oh, what did I do? Like, you're too creative for like, you end up at midnight, you like, get up at 7 a.m. like, oh, what did I do? I was up with the computer all night.
I built 30 apps.
I spent $50 on tokens last night. Like, at the strip club, you're like, what did I get to the ATM and I spent $400 on Claude?
What have I done? I've got so many project management apps. I don't even know what to do with them all.
What am I going to tell my wife? Yeah, no. So now I'm looking at like the multi-agent frameworks and stuff like that. I haven't gotten rate limited by the $200 plan, so that's good. So one of the issues is, instead of, for instance, creating like QBR is a great example, quarterly business review with a client. Everybody spends like a week, and if you had like 10 clients, like that's a lot of your time at the end of a quarter. It might be 2 weeks where you're just scheduling these meetings, working on the decks, and you're following up with everybody. And it's like, this led to my code first slide deck generation. It's like, well, then it could just be done. And the other thing is, and this is actually an interesting question for you. For me, the thing I always want is the output in Google Docs or PowerPoint. of a deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want it to be something where it's just a static image and then you have to maybe like do a little box over and try to match the color and then put
Yeah.
in some text. You want it to be all fully editable and things like that. And that was one of the great things about going to code first version is that it all pops out and you can give it to a customer and say, look, we took all your data and we've given you a QBR deck. And then they can do the rest of it, and they're actually much happier there versus coming back. I don't quite like it. It's like, you know how to use PowerPoint. You know how to use Google
Yes.
Docs. Like, go away.
Yeah. Although I would say that I still feel a disconnect between the output on the AI platforms and like getting it to the final, like put it in the Google Doc or put it in the PowerPoint or put it in the X platform so that it
Mhm.
works within that and goes back to the other reason because the code is good, but then like porting the code into the Google Docs code or the whichever other code, it's still like not not quite right. So I think that that's a yeah.
I set up a flow, and I spent a little bit too much time on this on like last Wednesday. But what I would do is create the deck, then I would have it screenshot itself, look at the deck, and then I'd be like, "Are you happy with this?" I mean, literally, just how do you
Can you
feel
even look
about?
at yourself in the mirror?
Yeah, and then
How
like
do you sleep at night?
a bit, yeah. And it was like, "Ooh, this isn't good." And it would do something like, I mean, my first version of it, I did 35 versions of the deck, and it would just run it, look at it, run it. I don't know what happened in the middle 20. It got away from me there, but like it just started going and spitting out slide decks, and it would screenshot them. And the key was it would every time you found something you didn't like, oh, there's an overlap of text, the box size is inconsistent, and then you could also, it would critique itself, add that to its heuristics. And then, so I think I mean, and the thing about it is it felt like a very like, this is going to be in the platform pretty soon, these types of things. And
They're
that
gonna
sounds like
figure it out.
the
Yeah.
front end skill. And then like Kimmy has a slide deck generation that's much more
Okay.
consistent. So I think these use cases are just going to be popped into the platform. You're talking with clients a lot. How many of them even understand a fraction of what's possible? Because my impression is that there's people who are like, my God, everything I've been doing for the last 15 years is pointless. It's all being done by AI. I'm losing my mind. And then there's people still being paid to do it in exactly that way in very large numbers. Like, what is your perception?
I think 99.99% are still just doing it the way that it's already been done. And I think us live in this Twitter X AI world of like, this is the way that it's being done and the way that it's happening and talking about listening to podcasts, saying that this is all going to wipe everyone out, which, is a different discussion and I, agree with at some point in some time frame. But if you actually look at the people on the ground, it's just like you, me, we all spend every day thinking about this, and there's no way. Most people aren't one or either not interested or can't keep up, or just have a day job and are doing other things, so they're not even close to getting it. They're trying to like tag it on, and I think the key change this year that you just said is go from tagging AI on to making AI first.
Can you come up with like a very pithy label for that? Just send it to me whenever you get
Yeah,
a
yeah,
chance.
yeah, yeah.
That's the major shift. It's like my engineers, it's like, we're sitting down this, the last couple of weeks, and it was just like, and you see this coming to all the major labs, right? Like the software development, just from a software. And I think software development is both more sophisticated in terms of, you talked about the front end design skill for Claude. I'd never seen that. So I'm going to go check that out.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's good.
All of the coding tools are the first skills that they've built. And then they're starting to get into design and I think deck generation and like I've been doing financial modeling are coming out.
Hmm.
But the earliest people who are really seeing it impact their skills are the people at these labs where they get this stuff even before it gets released fast. Although I feel like they release stuff so fast that there's not much of a lag.
Mm.
Because
Well,
I
who
got into
knows?
Claude Code, over the winter, and like I felt that I'm like maybe a month behind a couple of these other people that are like at the leading edge. But
Mhm.
they're saying in the last couple of weeks, I don't code anymore. I don't think at the major, like you were talking about Greg what's his name, Brockman at OpenAI. He's like, I don't code anymore. Just like you're the
What?
top coder. You're like the
Yeah,
guy,
you're
and
the
he's
guy.
like,
Yeah.
that's kind of sad for people who are really good at it because it's a beautiful skill, but
But he's still
I don't need him.
still a software developer, right? Because you're
He's the president in OpenAI, but the similar sentiment is being echoed that it's like, I think a lot of people coming out and being like, I don't do it at all. And I think it's kind of like you're either in or out, because it's like if you're cleaning up things with AI, you're linting, essentially, you're writing code, and then you're just saying, go check some stuff out for me, see if I have any security. Did I put any passwords in the code? That's one paradigm. But then I think what's happening is, and keep working if we have a great name for it, like let's coin it. When you flip over, the code works so much faster that like you really have to see yourself not as going in. I mean, I have no idea how many lines of code I wrote to like, do my company's 2026 model. 1,000, 200? I have no idea. I don't even know what it just came out. I looked at the model and it was good. And that's the thing. You can really only look at the output and put your human in the loop in particular places, which are around aesthetics, around craft. But if you think you're going to be involved in that coding workflow in any kind of meaningful way and not just grind it to a halt, it's not going to happen, right? So it's either one or the other.
Yeah, particularly in the coding workflow. And I do think there's still a lot of dot connecting to happen. But the other sort of trend I would say that's important is that you don't one shot. Like, don't even think about one shotting. Like that's such a popular term, but the way to differentiate is to not one shot. And I think because frequently, it's tempting. The first thing to do when I enter a new project or new task or whatever is to try and one shot it. And you go, here's all the stuff, and you kind of just see what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Probably it gives you something, and it might be something good for someone. It's almost never good for you or what you want. But I think what works much better is like for an app, for example, that I'm working on right now. It's like big arc. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's all the like UX touch points that we're thinking about. Let's map out the UX flow. And now let's go, let's have a big conversation about it. Give me your ideas. And I got Claude Code is really good at that. Like, do you have any enhancement ideas? And then let's go through each touch point one at a time and kind of work on them and talk about them and go back and forth on them. And I think that is really like that taste, that area point for differentiation is I think where there's really a strong opportunity for designers, for software engineers, for product managers, for entrepreneurs, because I think the market is going to be so inundated with this one-shotting, one-shotted AI slop apps, or maybe they'll be okay, but they just won't be different. Like they might be able to make an incredible accounting app or an incredible project management app or Kanban board or something, but it won't be differentiated to the point that somebody would be willing to pay for it or use
Yeah,
it.
and I think this is one of the big questions. And number one, I think there are a lot of shitty websites that people paid 10,000 for.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and who the purveyors of those are going to be in trouble. And I think with Webflow, a lot of people don't realize that with everything, like Webflow, I think it went from like a good-looking, decent website costing you maybe $5,000 to $10,000 minimum, like, and people paid a lot more than that. And then Webflow allowed you to kind of like a basic website, get it stood up for few $100, like $500, right? Like, oh, you find somebody who knows Webflow, and I'm not talking about yours. I'm not sorry.
No, no,
Anchoring price
like,
is extremely low. You're like, no, 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 no. We talked about like ruining markets by underpricing or overpricing. But going in and then on top of that, okay, now I want something that reflects my brand. Well, that was the whole market. It was like on top of that. But like there's still a ton of people charging that $500 to just like, oh, you want a website, or that's all gone, right? And so it's just like this constant tread towards zero. I think about the TVs, it's like it used to be a 100-inch TV was like $25,000, and they would only bring it out once a year at CES, and there was like 6 of them in the world. And now I go to Costco and there's literally a 100-inch TV and it costs like $1,000, and it's just like, whoa.
yeah,
Well, and it's that steady trend, but at the same time, and it's something Ian and I have talked about a lot, the standards for certain people have gone so high, and you can actually meet them consistently. And I think that's where everyone needs to really align themselves. It's like, stop thinking like, oh, I could do a bunch of crap for really cheap, and
yeah.
instead think like, what's actually going to get the job done? And everyone's
You
expectations in
do
the
really
slot
well.
not
Yeah.
acceptable.
Yeah, move up from doing a bunch of slop or crap to doing like, what can I really expand on? And maybe that means be more than one, but like expand the team. Do have 3 people, 5 people, 10 people who are running with that same mindset so that you can really create amazing things. But
Do you think that and this isn't just for your space, Jeff, but do you think that taste, that craft, um has always been the differentiator? I agree with you, it's going to become more differentiating as the output, the website becomes easier ultimately to do. So if you fast forward a year from now, how do you think you'll be positioning your business? Will you still be sort of AI first, or do you think you and kind of that space will begin to shift to highlight and position yourselves more about taste, kind of like it used to be, actually, right? Taste and creativity and
I think there's two areas to look at, particularly with people's on. Let's start with the service of helping people create an online presence, businesses create an online presence. What are all the components of an online presence? Like that's one piece right there. A lot of companies don't need or want to have a fancy like a differentiated website. They just want a sign. They want a sign that says that their business and their colors, and they want to help somebody to make that sign because they don't know how to like put the LEDs in, right? So it's like, so I think that that will still very much be a reality. That there will be many, many businesses who needs someone or some company to help them get their presence online. Now, what will be very interesting 1 year from that now will be what does that even mean in a world of SEO and you know, chat optimization, AI optimization, all those things. So there will always be people with ideas and businesses that are going to be focused on the businesses, and they're going to want somebody or something, you know, to help them figure out how to get that online. Now, there's also going to be the brands who want to be tastemakers, so to speak, right? Who want to be very heavily differentiated as it relates to their brand, and their look and feel is going to be something that's going to be an important differentiator for them. Where I think that, you know, that will make the difference for them.
do you say, I'm really intrigued with this question of brand. So you kind of alluded to it, right? Sort of in a world where, you know, our agents are doing our shopping for us, probably not for everything. Brand becomes less relevant and it becomes hard to differentiate if you as a human never even saw the website. So, and actually, Matt's had some thoughts on this long, long time ago, which is like there's a potential that actually the website kind of dies or disappears, or there's some other manifestation of that. And I think there has to be, just to tie the two together, because there's got to be something for brand, I think, somewhere in the marketing world. And obviously, you do a lot more than just websites.
I think it'll be all. My prediction will it will be all in context or in situ or in window, let's call it. So you talk to your Claude bot, and it's going to have an interface, and it's going to go show me like the latest pair of like shoes that are popular in New York right now that people are wearing, and it'll come up with a bunch of photos that'll just like pop into your feed, into your stream, and you'll go, here's a few different brands that are there, and you'll say, I want those ones because that guy's wearing them, and that's what you'll do. And as far as going deeper into the brand and understanding them and going to their storefronts, to going to their shop, I think that there will still be a place for that, to the extent that it'll be for loyalists to understand something a little bit more, to go in and learn more about the brand. Like it's kind of like the brand book, like not the brand book, that's a marketing term, but more like understand the brand itself a little bit more in the background, the people, like think like Patagonia or something.
Positioning as well. I mean,
Yeah, it's like
the non-economical economic characteristics of the thing. It's not the price and it's not the spec, but it's think, and the reason I'm asking you, Jeff, and other people don't know this, but Jeff ran marketing at the last startup that we worked. So he thinks much broader than just the stuff we've been talking about. Like if you're a brand and you want to sell your product, so now you want to make sure you show up in ChatGPT, that's great. You got to be there, but they're going to limit how you present yourself. And then there's this whole other brand narrative that you want the consumer to actually receive somehow. And if we're not going to websites anymore, is it just influencer marketing is all just on YouTube and maybe LinkedIn, or any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the vast majority of it, honestly, if I was to predict, it will be the vast majority of things will be via influencers and referrals and people using the products and saying, hey, use this because I used it. Look at this because I, you know, wear this because I wore it. I think that that will be the dominant form. I mean, even now, the impact of a website, you could argue, is very, very low for any consumer good, right? Because everything's just being churned through Amazon, and or many things are being churned through Amazon. You know, like the Nike website is quite good, but for any other products that you buy on Amazon, like do you ever go to like the KitchenAid website or the like, I mean, maybe a bad example, but there's you know, most times you
I
don't
think,
actually
yeah,
end up at somebody's website.
Nike is a very different brand, and I'm glad I think you brought up. Just to give a little bit of authority to I did pitch Nike a data product. They used to be my customer, and I went up to
Yeah,
Portland and we were
nice.
talking about data products. And, you know, it's like they had a real problem, which is they overproduced a lot of their custom stuff during COVID. And I think they burned a few people. But like, if I had to imagine, like, what is a pitch I would make to Nike in 2026? it would be a terminal window that looked like a little Bloomberg stock tracker, like the Bloomberg terminal. And it would be a community of hypebeast, and then it would be real-time betting on the price of various shoes and their drop, right? And then you would have
Mhm.
like a video feed. And like, this is the thing, all these people, and I bet it's Kalshi and these prediction websites paying
Prediction
these
markets,
people
yeah.
to do this, like shills, like they're shilling for these websites. But I think like betting, like lo-fi, like real-time community stuff, like I think those things could replace, and you could obviously do this through a website, would be much more accessible, but like that would be my drop for 2026, is like it's in the terminal, it's super AI driven, and you're betting. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like the feel of 2026.
Betting, well, certainly betting. Yeah, I think lo-fi, I think, is a big one. Like just moving the fact that I'm even in a terminal is like, and I think a really good just sidebar example of the benefit of a terminal actually and of lo-fi is actually latency and ability to do more. So and to get the latest. Now, not everybody wants the latest, but what I find is because I'm flipping between Claude Terminal and the Claude, and the Claude Terminal works much better than I find than the Claude app even.
Cloud app
Um,
just it bogs down and
Bogs
crashes my
down,
machine.
randomly slows, so randomly just stops, and doesn't get the features as fast as the terminal. The terminal, like they're shipping in the terminal. It's just like every day there's something new that they're putting in there, like the task list they put in last week. Like there's just stuff coming out. So I think that the like simple, low latency, just give me the goods, kind of like without the fluffy, gaudy statues around it, I think the trend that I would pull on from what you're saying and say I would agree that it's going to be just give me the goods.
Yeah, and that's something that we haven't had forever. Is every time you opened, I remember when I first got my first iPhone, and certainly when I had an Android phone before that, it felt like every time they released a new update, it was way better and it was exciting. And it feels like a lot, aside from these giant iOS releases, which, the latest one, it felt like just a lot of reorganization and style changes and like a bunch of stuff in this background that didn't really help me, but like help them align how they're going to strategically, make the apps work the same on CarPlay and my phone, which I'm like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, that doesn't help me. That isn't exciting. Versus I'm in the terminal and it's like, oh, they added that mode, or they did this thing. There's a new skill. It's like, it just felt fresh and engaging. I'm going to log in, and thoughtful people who are using the app for the same way as me figured out what they wanted, and they brought it out, they released it, and now it's what I want. Like, that's fun. Like, it's fun to use products like this. And I think when you look at like a tool like Adobe, there's so much shit in it.
So
And it
much.
takes so much time to learn. And their whole moat was based on how fucking much effort you had to do to get value out of this thing. But once you got it, you were able to be paid, a huge amount of money each year because you had this specialized skill that was very valuable. But it didn't, everything felt like it was trending asymptotically towards, it basically got complicated, weird, and was stuck. And this doesn't feel like that.
No, I think, and across the industries, I think this is what's going to be most interesting 1 year from now, because I think we'll be like, whoa, like the hollowing out will really happen. We will not be, like I said, people won't need to know how to use Figma. You won't know how to use like an accounting software. You won't know how to use a project management software. You won't know how to use like all of this insanity. It'll be gone. And I think this SaaS industry, I think, is going to be one of the most interesting. I would say last year, I had thought that LLMs would learn how to use Figma. Like it would be like, oh, they're going to take over the screen and they're going to be going ding, 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 and like building things. I no longer believe that at all.
No, I don't think Figma and those
Yeah,
complicated tools, but
they're
like,
just going to build it. They're going to build it, right, and it's just going to be
or
like
there's going to be you're talking about like craft and the quality rising up, right? When I used to like get like, introduction, hey Matt, I want to introduce you to this person for this reason. Like, send me your 2-pager. Cool. Got a 2-pager all wrapped up, nicely designed. Take AI, fix up my 2-pager. 2-pager's looking really good. Okay. Got some good, pre-send material for sales. Hey Matt, send me a video. Fuck. I hate taking videos. I as much as like, we do the podcast, like sitting down and walking someone through your product and having because your new features are coming out. You got to do that new video every month now. It's not every 6 months that you can explain what your company is. It's every fucking week. It's for that customer. You used to have like, one deck, and then you customize it a little bit. Now you have to have a custom video for that use case and that customer and what they want. It has to all be to brand. You have to record it. Is it your face? Is it real? Is it fake? So it's like, my point is, Ian, as the quality of the tools goes up, people now ask you, give me a video for this client. Like, I have to record a 15-minute video of the whole pitch instead of going to that meeting, that's not gonna, now it's because it's a video, it's not just me talking. It has to look good. It has to be good. And so now I need my
So
own
does taste go up?
video flow.
I mean, on one
Yeah.
hand, we're saying like fidelity goes down, but on the other hand, we're going expectation for quality goes up to some
Yeah.
degree as well, because
Yeah, I think it's something to do with what's the most direct route to the thing that you're trying to create. And it was really interesting me, Jeff, when you started out by saying you've gone closer to the code. Why have you done that? Well, Claude Code just gets me. I don't need any of the bells, and I don't need the give me the 7 different buttons on Webflow. The quickest way for me to get to the output is here. Or maybe said another way, what's the quickest way for me to apply my taste and my craft, create the differentiated output?
Yeah, and I think so, and I think where that's going to go to. And now we're all practicers of the frontier of the edge, the front of AI. Most people are not, but um, I think there's been this really interesting trend on getting closer to the metal, closer to the code. In that, like all these IDEs, like even like who would have thought that Cursor might have actually like dropped from the public sphere? Like lots of people are still using Cursor, but like Cursor, Replit, Lovable, like these ones are like suddenly people are going back closer to the frontier models, closer to the LLMs, because these other ones are wrappers. The LLMs are moving so fast that these wrappers can't keep up with them. And I think that will only exponentially increase. That
Yeah.
it's going to be, yeah,
Yeah. Like the thing that stands out there is like, I want to just focus in on the pace that Claude has been changing over the past 2 months. Like people always talk about liftoff and the singularity, and it's like, we might be there. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna live forever, everybody. Maybe we're all gonna become one entity, whatever. I'll see you in the Matrix. But like, there's that fear you have. And then, that was the question I asked you earlier. I mean, you're talking to clients and you're like, most people, 99.99% of business is not even slightly engaged with this.
yeah. And I think it comes back to the AI as a tag on, AI as an add-on, not as a first principles. So I
Yep.
think that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like there's like as scary as it is. I think Ian and I have had a background in product management. I always looked up to Ian as a product manager for many many years, and I was like excited to have a podcast so I could talk to him every day or every week. Product is not there's no durability to that concept anymore in the same way.
Durability to the product side of it.
There isn't an app. There isn't just a product that's going to stay static. It's like a way of interacting with customers, but it's different. It's not that there won't be anything durable that emerges. Again, if we go to the singularity, nothing durable. Everything is just thrown in the air, and you're not going to interact with anything. You go bet on which shoe Nike is going to drop next. Like that will be the future for all of us. But for those of us who still want to have an influence in things, like staying 3 or 4 months ahead is the thing.
Is the thing. And also just, I mean, get used to the learning curve isn't steep, it's endless. Like that's kind of where we're at now, right? It's like, you don't like learn AI. You really have to be the perpetual learner, because that's the only way that you're going to stay on the front of this.
You're doing design. Have you ever considered transformation for your clients? Like going in and they have design professionals on hand, they have marketers on hand. And, it's like, on the one hand, as a service provider, you always have this impulse to be like, no, I'm not going to show you my tricks. I want you to come back but you're a one person design shop. So it's like, in some level, you're in an abundant mindset. You're like, there's infinite customers. There's infinite opportunities. There's only one of me. So anything I can do to up my leverage, like, yeah, I'm going to do AI. I'm going to use 20 AI agents to do it because I'm not going to charge for 3 months of work. I can go get more customers. I'm going to do a week of work and move on, right? So it's like, I think having a very small, lean firm gives you a very different outlook on like, what is the purpose of your interaction with the customer? And have you looked at other things beyond just the traditional, I'm going to do a project for you?
Yes. Yes and no. I mean, AI transformation has always been like on the tip of my tongue as it relates to just like diving fully into that. And Ian, you and I even talked about that a little bit at one point, like just fully going into different verticals and saying, look, let me just help you guys like figure out how to AI-ify your business. And where I'm at right now on that, that half answers your question is, I'm looking at from a design point of view and from a marketing and a product, like a outward presentation point of view, how can I go into companies and say, like, ditch all your existing assets and start again using AI. I'm not going to go in and say ditch like for accounting and for all these, because it's too much for me to handle. But I can go into a company and say, like, let's just restart your website, like completely hosted somewhere else. Like, so what I'm doing, and I'm doing an exercise right now. I've got about 10 websites that I'm working on that I've got just in my kind of like Webflow folder that either are live websites for myself or for clients that I still have there. And I'm doing an exercise, kind of building a product called like Site Cloner, where I'm seeing how fast can I take an existing Webflow website and take it off of Webflow, replicate it exactly, amplify it, make it a little bit better where I can, and then host it on like Vercel and just like put it in a different hosting environment where it's just pure code. And then explore headless CMSs or not, or how do you do an AI headless CMS? What does that look like? And that to me is the area where I'm kind of going, where can I do transformation for a company where I go, hey, like, let's just completely rip out your existing marketing and start and plant fresh instead of like trying to like prune these leaves and, just
When
these.
you said headless AI CMS, you're doing that because you want to be able to provide a feed basically for an LLM to consume, as well as the website, which is for the humans.
I would like to be able to go, because everyone's like, what do I do with AI? And my pitch will be, don't do AI as an add-on, do AI, we need to figure out the line.
Well, yeah,
But
like one example, we're at the point where it's almost like you just dump all the content directly into a doc, tell Claude, just like, look at this folder, create a website with everything, and screw having any like editing ability. Just like when you add a new document, Claude completely re-render the entire website. Go 2 minutes and then release it. It's
I
like,
think
why are we
that's the
even
key, because you
talking
do
about
need to
these
make
complicated
edits.
workflow tools?
You do need to make edits. And the question is, what's faster, to make the edit or just to rebuild the entire website? And of course, that depends on the nature of the website. Is it e-commerce? Is it not?
Yeah.
How big is the
No, we
website?
were talking to a client this morning, and it was just kind of like, well, what do you do under these situations? And it's like, if it's less than 1 million tokens, just throw it into the AI and just have them do it. Like,
Yeah, which is scary. I think it's particularly as traditional product managers or entrepreneurs or businesses where you go, this is how you do it. You take an existing technology like a mobile phone and GPS technology and build an app on top of it, right? And that's what you do. And now it's not that. And I think that one of the hardest things to do for a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs will be, how do I just like get rid of that previous mindset of how I built products before? Because it's different. It's very different. And I don't know the answer, actually. I don't think anybody does. But
I have no idea what's coming. It's wild.
I know this is the first time we've had a repeat guest. This is, probably the first episode that could easily go 2 hours. But I think at this point we're going to have to wrap it. Jeff, thank you. Very thought-provoking. Appreciate you coming back for round 2.
Yeah, no, it's always fun to dig into it. There's so many topics we could just keep going even deeper on. So
we can get extra co-host anytime you want to come back, Jeff. This has been fantastic. Thanks, man.
Yeah, love it. It's good to connect. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, fellas.